All right. Happy Friday, everybody. Good morning to the West Coast people. Good afternoon to the East Coast people, and either or in between. Welcome to the importance of printing your photos with HP and Adorama. Today, we're going to be talking about our HP DesignJet Z9 series. So, I am Frank DeMartino with HP. I'm a partner business manager for our DesignJet large format, coming to you from hot and sunny Sarasota, Florida. Also joining me from HP is Eddie Anderson. He's one of our DesignJet solutions architects. Joining us from beautiful Boise, Idaho. And then our honored guest, Daniel Norton, photographer, coming to us from the Hudson Valley of New York. So welcome, Daniel. I'm just going to go through an overview of our DesignJet Z9 product line. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on specs and that kind of stuff, but just give you a quick overview. And then we're going to get into the fun stuff. I have a printer here, a Z9 Plus. Eddie's got one out in Boise. Daniel sent us some images to print. So then we're going to have some fun. We're going to print, and then we'll have some opportunity to answer some questions. We had some sent in beforehand that we'll go through as well. So the Z9 Plus is our photo fine art large format product line. They're 9-ink printers. We've got a few different models available in size ranging from 24-inch all the way up to 66-inch, or I'm sorry, 64-inch. So we're going to focus on three main areas here. The output, which is amazing on the printer, which you're going to see when we run them. That's probably the most important thing that people on this call are going to be interested in. And then the speed and how we're able to achieve that speed while still maintaining that amazing output. And then ease of use. So if a printer is impossible to use, it's not going to do you any good. So we've made the printer and the software simple and easy to use, even for people who are new to large format printing. So when we talk about the output, a lot of it is focused on the print head. So these are inkjet printers. So like all inkjet printers, there's a print head. There's different technology used by different manufacturers. But we've got some revolutionary stuff in our print heads that we introduced with this product line. So we're going to talk about a couple of those features first. So what we call our printers, we abbreviate it to HDNA, which is high definition nozzle architecture. I saw GMC has pickup truck commercials where they say HDNA. I don't know if we patented that or not, but we should talk to the legal department. So that stands for high definition nozzle architecture with dual ink droplet weight. So I'll get into a little bit of that without getting too crazy over everybody's head. But to sum it up, we're able to achieve greater quality with fewer number of inks. So over the years in large format photo printers, manufacturers, including us, started adding more inks. So from 4 to 6 to 9 to 12, and who knows. But the technology we introduced in this printhead allows us to achieve the greatest quality possible with the fewest number of inks required without any trade-off on print speed. So one of the things in the print head and in the software in the printer is what we call pixel control. So obviously, most photography now is digital. I'm sure there's still people out there using film. I think they still make film, right? It's been a while since I've used it, but everything's digital. But obviously, when you print, you're going back to analog. So I'm a big hi-fi guy. So you talk about digital analog conversion in stereo equipment. I still buy a lot of records, but I still listen to CDs, so I'm old school. But basically, similar thing that we've done in the printer is taking all those pixels from a digital image and managing how we send that to the printer. So that's what we call pixel control. So basically, we're able to go using 9 inks to 68 million, I think that is, pixels. So basically, it's laid down on the print. So we can take a digital image and just do individual analysis to get the most accurate and highest quality reproduction on the print. So that's, Eddie showed you the printhead, but that's what the printhead looks like. There's 2 colors per printhead. They're user replaceable. So, printhead goes bad, you buy another one for $100-something, you pop it in the printer, you're ready to go. So there's no tech that needs to come on and out and service printhead. So those are the colors in the printhead. So we've got magenta, yellow, cyan, and black, which are your standard 4 colors. But then we've also got what we call chromatic blue and chromatic red, chromatic green. We've got a gray, and then we've got 2 different blacks depending on what type of paper you're printing on. And then I'll talk about that G in a second here. So between the high definition printheads and the pixel control, we're able to have smoother transitions, richer blacks, fewer artifacts, sharper details, and predictability from print to print. That little G that I showed you there, that's actually the plus in the Z9 Plus name. So Z9 colors with a plus. So we've got a pretty inexpensive upgrade kit available for the printer. There we go, which is the gloss enhancer. So mainly when you're printing black and white. So if you're printing black and white photo on glossy photo paper, if you look at it sideways, you can kind of see where the ink is laid down. It sort of inhibits some of the gloss of the paper, and then in white areas, that gloss comes through, which isn't really a desirable effect on a print. So the gloss enhancer upgrade is basically a clear liquid that fills in those white areas, so it enables uniform gloss across the print. So that's an upgrade you can add to your printer at any time. And then, I've been in large format printing for more years than I care to admit, 20-something. So I remember the days when to make a nice 24-inch photo print on an inkjet printer took 20 minutes. I mean, like literally sitting around waiting forever. So those days are over. So the output's great, but you don't want to wait all day for it. So some other technology in the printhead enables us to print high quality at fast speed. So this is an extreme magnification of one of those printheads that we looked at, so under a microscope. So when the ink's laid down, it comes out of the printhead, it's a little drop, a bubble of ink that gets sort of shot onto the paper. So in this new printhead technology, we're able to have multiple droplet sizes. So in some colors, we can actually create 2 different drop sizes. In other colors, it's a single drop size. So the reason for having the 2 sizes on certain colors is for large fill areas, we can actually use those larger ink droplets. So if you're just printing a big black area or a big, color shaded area, we'll use larger droplets to fill those. So that's how we're able to print faster. And then for fine details and shaded transitions, that kind of thing, we actually use the smaller droplets for reduced, so the visual grain of the print is not visible. And then for the other colors, the grain's not really visible, so we're just using a single droplet size. So on the bottom left there is sort of an extreme magnification of the printhead. So on the dual drop, we measure ink droplets in picoliters. So on the dual size, it's either 7 or 3. On the single size, it's a 6. There's no quiz, so you don't have to remember that. And then Eddie, I think, has our Z9, and we'll get through the models a little bit. I have a Z9 24-inch printer here, but on our 44-inch model, we introduced the first vertical, and it's on our optional higher end 44-inch model, first vertical trimmer in the large format printer market. It was when we introduced it, it still is. So all, if not most, large format printers like mine are roll fed. So there's a horizontal cutter in there. So you make a print, it cuts it, it drops off. But the problem comes, like let's say I'm printing an odd sized image. So if I've got a 20-inch image and I'm running 24-inch paper. Now when the print comes out, it's trimmed on the top and the bottom, but I got to get a ruler and an X-Acto knife out to trim the white areas off the side of the print. With the model with the vertical trimmer, the printer will cut those white areas off. So the cool thing is now we can print a full bleed borderless print on any type of paper, any size. So it doesn't matter if the image size doesn't match the paper roll size that you're running. And it comes in really handy if you're doing a long, like a panoramic print. So let's say you're printing something, 10 feet long. Imagine trying to trim the white area off of that and being straight with a ruler and everything. So that's pretty cool. So it's foolproof, no human error, anything like that. So we'll get into the models, but that's on our Z9 Plus dual roll, which has 2 paper rolls in 44-inch model. And then we want to make the printers easy to use. If a lot of people who are new to large format printing, who are used to printing just 8 by 10 photos, it can be a little daunting. So we try to make it as foolproof and as easy as possible. And one thing we've done is we introduced a new job submission software, which is free. So anybody that buys a DesignJet printer can download the software, install it on a Mac or PC, and this is what I use every day when I print. So it's simple drag and drop printing. So if you look at the screenshot there, on the right, it's showing me a visual representation of the size paper I have loaded in the printer and how that print is going to actually come out. So what you see is what you get printing, no trial and error. It'll automatically scale to paper size. I can scale to landscape, scale to portrait. It's also got a nesting feature. So if I've got 42-inch paper loaded in the printer, but I want to print a bunch of 8 by 10s, I can actually gang those up and print them out on one sheet. In that case, you would have to cut them out individually, but it's great to save paper. So you can still print small prints on a large format. You just want to wait until you have a bunch to print. So supports PDF, JPEGs, TIFF, PNG images. And if you have the printer with a vertical trimmer in it, it actually shows you little cut lines of where it's going to trim the sheet. And then we're the only one in the large format printer market that has a built-in Spectr Photometer. Other companies, you can add it as an accessory or after the fact. But Spectr Photometer, if you're not familiar, is basically like a little camera that reads color in the print. So this means if Eddie and I both use this Spectr Photometer to calibrate our printers to a certain type of media or paper, and I make a print in Florida and he makes a print in Boise, regardless of whether I'm 95 degrees and 90% humidity and he's whatever temperature it is, it's not quite 95 here, almost. Whatever it is in Boise right now, those two prints are going to match. So it's closed loop color calibration and ICC profiling. So we encourage you to use HP branded paper, but with this, you can use any brand paper. So if you have an old printer from another manufacturer and you got some paper you want to use, you can actually create the calibrations for third-party paper right on the printer. So with the HP papers, everything, all the different calibrations and profiles are in the printer. Although if you're super color critical, I recommend you doing your own calibration on site anyways, so there's no variables there. So I'm not going to go through everything on this wheel here, but these are some of the points that we touched on here. All the different features of the printer, the software, the print head, and so on. One thing I always say is, HP, we do have the most secure large format printers in the market. So every day on the news, you hear about cyber attacks and all this other kind of stuff, and what's it called, ransomware and everything. So everybody's computer, PC, laptop has all different virus and firewall software on it. But if you've got an old printer, large format, small format, or not, sitting out on your network, that can be vulnerable to attack. So a hacker's always going to try and find the weakest point in a network, and that's typically a printer. So all of our printers have, and I'm not going to get into all the little details, but have the most secure features in the printer of any large format printer. So this is a rundown of the series. So what I have behind me is the Z9 24-inch. This month we're running an $800 instant rebate. 44-inch single roll without that trimmer. Again, instant rebate on that. The one we talked about, the vertical trimmer, which also allows you to put 2 paper rolls in the printer at the same time. That's the one Eddie has there. And then the big guy, which is the Z9 Pro 64-inch. So that has a trade-in rebate on it. So all these printers are obviously available for order today from Adorama with these special promotional prices. So I know we're focusing on photo here, but HP does have the broadest portfolio of large format printers in the market. So from just little 24-inch desktop printers for printing little posters or CAD drawings, all the way up to production models, what we call MFPs that allow you to do scanning in the printer and so on. So got a very broad portfolio depending on what you're using the large format printer for. So enough of my PowerPoint slides. Now we're going to get into the fun stuff and actually run some prints and answer some questions. So let me switch this off here. So Daniel, I know you sent Eddie some images. You sent me, I got a couple as well. So Eddie, I know you ran some prints.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I've been printing away, and I don't know if you guys noticed, but in the middle of the print, I actually ran out of one of the colors. And if you notice, the machine, it just paused while he waits for me to replace the ink, because I have been doing a lot of virtual demos and a lot of printing. And a lot of black and white, so that was the color I had to replace with the black. But as you can see, this image, one of Daniel's awesome images, I replaced it, but you cannot see where it had stopped and continued printing. So that way, you know, just to show like, look, you know, it's easy to use, and there's things like these scenarios you're going to run into, but you're not, I didn't waste my little print job here. So I got it done. And in most cases, a lot of times the machine will just kind of stop and reboot. But not with this guy here. So I'm in business. I got a sellable print right there. Or Daniel does. I'm just printing it for him.
You're going to be on the street selling it later.
Right.
Just forge my signature. It's fine.
long coat. Hey.
Yeah, make sure you create your what's it called, Etsy account, and you can start selling.
Yeah.
What, Eddie? You have that gloss enhancer in your printer or no?
I do. So this fella's right here is upgraded to the gloss enhance. As a matter of fact, when you do upgrade it, it sits right here. There's a plug inside the machine. So half the plumbing is already there. And I simply, that dongle I showed you, I just plugged it in, I unlocked it, I put in the print head, put in the gloss enhanced ink, and now I have the option. So I don't have to put it in the day I buy the machine. Maybe I'm doing my photography image prints and they look just great. But then I'm thinking, okay, you know, I'm going to go to a museum quality level print, or I'm doing a lot of black and white print, and I think I'm seeing some metamorism, you know, or a little bit of bronzing. So then I can at any time upgrade to the gloss enhance. Once it's in there, it's in there. But that's the greatest thing about the gloss enhance is it's designed to make your prints, your ink, look as shiny as the paper is being printed on. So this is a nice satin finish. If I bend it, you can see how the lights are reflecting on it. But then if I show it straight to you, it looks awesome. But as you can see, like the black on the guy's head, it's not soaking in the light. The light's shining evenly across because I have a gloss enhance. Usually if it's a lower quality ink or a lower quality paper, that black part, when I shine a little bit of white light like on that, you'll still see his head because it soaks in all the light. That metamorism or that bronzing effect. But with gloss enhance, it makes your ink just as shiny as the paper you're printing on. And like Frank says, it works on HP papers and it works on any photo papers that you load into this machine. This printer loves printing on a huge variety of mediums.
That's what I was going to say. I don't have the gloss enhancer in mine. I guess I could get it, but well, I'm running instant dry satin on here, which I like the satin papers, but there's literally dozens. I have a roll of canvas here too that I've done some canvas prints. I've got some gloss. I've even got some adhesive back vinyl that I've printed little signs, on as well. So the catalog of paper available is pretty broad, from photo to fine art to even banner, vinyl, sign material, that kind of thing. So.
Exactly. Yeah, and you might find yourself needing it or not. Usually, if you go with the HP papers, we've formulated the ink and we've played with those papers so we have it tweaked just perfect. And you may not need to invest in the gloss of the hands because the shininess of that paper is pretty dang good. But you may have a paper that you really like and you use a lot and you do like the output. It might look great. And if not, you can always gloss enhance and get it perfectly dialed in. Yeah. Oh, speaking of canvas, here's actually a canvas job that we've done right here. So because of the pigment ink, you can print on a huge variety of medias. Actually, I would love to print one of Dan's jobs on a canvas. It looks stellar.
Oh yeah, I just printed one of my favorite ones, Daniel's, that you sent over, because I'm a big Elvis fan, so I thought that one was kind of cool. So yeah, it's just about done here. It's getting ready.
That was really cool. So Daniel, what's the story with the Elvis one? Because being a kid who grew up in Las Vegas, I mean that kind of hits home out in the desert, pink Cadillac.
Well, that's actually awesome that you say that, because what happened was I was doing a show on Adorama called On Set, and we were going to Vegas. I was covering the show, but they were like, "Oh, we're out there. We should do a project." And I said, "What's more Vegas than Elvis?" Right? And we thought, well, we could just do one Elvis, but in the end, I called up a place and we got 5 different Elvises and a Cadillac, and we went out to the desert and we shot them. So we had, I think the one that I sent you he called himself Mini Elvis. So he's a little guy, and he was so funny. There you go, that way. And just they were all just, they're Elvis impersonators. So they're great hams. We had a female one, we had just a variety of them. And we had this Cadillac. And we just went in the desert and shot them. And it was just really, really fun just to kind of work with different people like that and to show like what you could do putting a project together, and making it look, like it does. So that was really, I just loved the Elvises. They were so fun. And it's funny because the Cadillac was the hardest thing to get, and funny enough, like nobody wanted to like rent the ones that were for movies were crazy expensive. And the ones that were, in rental places weren't cool and vintage. And one of the Elvises actually knew a guy. He's like, I know a guy that knows a guy, and they showed up with this Cadillac. They just drove up with it. I was like, oh, that's exactly what I was looking for.
That's cool. Yeah, so that's gotta be like
a guy in Vegas. Yeah,
that's probably like a 50, late 50s was, I think, when they had the fins were that big, and then after that they sort of shrunk down a little bit.
I'm a huge big yacht boat car fan, and it looks like a 59 Caddy to me.
It was really fun, and I did
if I could fit one of those in my garage, I'd probably buy something like that. But I'd have to. I don't know how the houses they built the garages must have been bigger back then, because it would stick out 3 feet from the end of my garage. But
same.
Right.
So Daniel, sorry. So the title of this event is the importance of printing your photos. So obviously, I'm going to tell people it's important to print photos because I work for HP and we make printers. But in your opinion, everybody's digital now, and here to show you my pictures and Instagram and all that kind of stuff. But I truly feel that there is a very important reason to still print your pictures, which I'm sure you'll agree with, and I'm sure you can tell us a little more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the main, most basic thing that people don't often think about is the idea of just giving somebody a print. When you back in the day, I'm a very young guy, even though but you even just giving somebody like a quick print of a Polaroid or something was fantastic. Right now, you're sending them something on your phone, and it's just not the same. It gets washed up in the rest of it. So since we don't have Polaroids to give them, we can go back to our house and print a beautiful print for somebody quickly. It looks amazing. And, to back in the film days, like to make somebody a large format print like that would be quite expensive. It would just be, relatively speaking, having a printer that you can just kind of crank something on and give it to somebody. And what's funny is we have done this before, and I have prints. I always try to give them to the models, and they love them. It's like you think they'd be like, I have enough pictures of myself, but you know what? They don't.
Oh
They
yeah.
want to remember that moment, and it's amazing to see it big because when you take a picture and like we were just showing your phone. I was just thinking about this. We were doing a live stream yesterday. Seth was shooting actually, and every time he blows in, he's got this camera with a gazillion megapixels. He blows into the eyeball. And it's like, well, that's wonderful, but you don't see the whole picture when you do that because you're on a small screen, right? So where can you see like the detail of the picture, the all the detail all at once, right? Not tiny is a print. You hang it on your wall, you step back 3 or 4 feet, you really take this thing in. And for me, there's nothing like it. And obviously anybody that's really into photography probably gets that, right? But just the idea of having these prints and being able to show them and hang them. I'm not going to tear it up my wall. I actually have a print hanging on my wall from a very older event that Joe McNally was there doing kind of what you're doing here with me. And they printed one of his pictures. And I was like, Joe, could I have that? I have it stuck on my wall, and it's like, here, I have a print, and you're all jealous.
Absolutely. And it's funny you mentioned the models because when we were at that show together in Louisville in January, you were shooting the model on the stage. I was next to you with the printer, and I was printing those images. And I remember the model before she got up and grabbed her Uber to go to the airport. She's like, "Can I have that?" I'm like, "Absolutely." So yeah. I'm just blown away that we could do that. And I mean, and people think a lot's changed too. I mean, the printers have come down in price. The cost to make a print has come down.
Mm-hmm.
So, to make that print that Eddie's holding there, not including the cost of the printer, but the ink and the paper and so on, it's $5-6 or something. I mean, maybe if I'm running canvas, it's going to be a few dollars more, but versus going in somewhere and having that print made, I mean, first off, it's probably, you're going to have a hard time finding a professional place to have something like that printed. You can have prints made at a big box store. I'm not going to name names, but the people there are used to printing 8.5 by 11 spiral bound things, and they have a printer there and they can make a print, but it's not going to be at that quality. So to bring that stuff in house is kind of a big deal because then you maintain end-to-end workflow. And then the other thing too is you walk into a store like that and some kid likes your image and he's like, all right, I'm gonna print a dozen of these and give them out to my friends. So it gives you copyright control over your own photography as well. So, but yeah, to make the print, and then you can see how fast it is to make the print too. So versus going somewhere to pick it up or waiting, that kind of thing, I could print, and it would take me like 3 minutes to make that print that I just made.
Yeah, no problem at all.
It's funny that you say that about the show because, right, like I think my demo was like maybe 30 or 45 minutes. And at some point in the middle of it, I said, hey, could you print something and gave you an image that we just made? So, and the model was able to walk away. And some of the shooters got some of the pictures, I think, too. Like you were printing multiple prints in this short period of time. And it's really pretty amazing what you can do now. And I sometimes say this way back in the day. Again, I'm a very young guy. When people were first using inkjets, and I was a snob using labs and stuff, and I was like, "Oh, printing yourself." But now I wouldn't even dream of sending it to a lab unless it was like a very, very, very expensive lab. That because what you can do yourself is in a lot of ways so much better, and it's so much easier than it used to be. Like, I mean, I remember looking at early inkjets, going, "How do you even like match all these profiles and get it?"
Exactly.
And like I say, the simplicity of it is just really fantastic. And I think there is just something about making our images more real when they're physically in your hand. It's everything is so ephemeral these days. It's like your shooting is just gone, and you don't have that ability. When I used to do a lot of street photography, I would actually, because this is mostly film, I would actually have 4x6 prints made for my edit, not look at contact sheets, not look at negatives, not look at the scans, because just touching and feeling and stuff. So even making quick draft prints of things that you think you might like, putting it on the wall. All this builds up to just being able to really appreciate your work in a different way. And then beyond that, of course, we were talking about cost, is if you are somebody that sells prints, having that control, right? We were joking about Etsy shop or whatever, but if you were wanting to sell your work online, instead of going to one of these places that's just going to have some cheap print runoff, you could control that and you charge for it. It's a high-end product.
Yeah, and I mean, and the inks that are in this printer are pigmented inks. They're archival quality. So, there's third-party companies, Wilhelm Labs and so on, that do testing. So, I mean, running the pigment inks on archival paper, I mean, talking about an estimated lifespan in the hundreds of years too. So people think digital's forever. I read an article the other day that said hard drives from the 90s are now starting to deteriorate and the layers are delaminating. So, and I mean, digital, I had bought years ago, I bought one of the first Kodak digital cameras and I had everything stored on my laptop. And not a laptop, probably an actual tower PC at the time. And somehow everything got deleted when I did a backup or something. I lost all those images too. So, I mean, digital doesn't necessarily mean forever, whereas a print is something you have a physical copy of, that you can.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and I've talked to a lot of photographers recently, been to a few events. And their business models they vary. So I've had people coming in just to be just greenhorn, or they just do it for the fun of it, like hobbyists. And the price of like the printer behind Frank over there, it's the price of a lens. It's pretty affordable price to kind of get in and get started. There's folks who get the machine, and by the time they run out through their first set of ink, the machine's paid itself off in spades. Usually we figure about 50 prints, the machine's paid for it, and sell your prints what it's worth. Don't undersell it, make sure you're digitizing and doing that. Some people are going just to like a farmer's market and then they're selling their jobs there. Some people are doing them more professional. Some people are getting like a game plan and Etsy. And I've watched a few of these guys really grow the business. They end up buying, they start off with a 24-inch model, then they moved a couple of these, and then they had their garage full of about 4 or 5 of the machines, and they just kind of built a little empire. And I've seen other professional photographers who have just the machine, but they don't sell their prints. They use it to advertise, so they go to shoots and they print things out and they give the prints out to the models and things like that. And so they help build a reputation and a network. So the machine doesn't make the money directly, but it brings their business and ties everything in together. So there's a lot of these business opportunities just for having the machine, and you can go many different directions. It really, I mean, you think about it, guys, it's a small investment to hit the direction you want to go for to make this a business.
Absolutely. And, the printer I have here is a 24-inch, but, the speed's still the same as the bigger one. And then, I can print 24 inches as long as I want. And to get into that printer, I actually just take the model number into Adorama.com. Right now with the promos and everything, it's $26.95. So, I mean, that's a lot less expensive than you would think. I mean, like I said, I've been doing this a long time. My first forte into large format inkjet printing was a company called Iris years ago that made glisse printers. And I mean, they were tens of thousands of dollars. The quality wasn't anywhere near this. And it would take like 40 minutes to make the print that I just had. And forget about the cost of the ink and the special paper you had to use and everything. So, like anything with technology, as things get, faster, cheaper, better. So, I mean, luckily we've been able to capitalize on that with our printers. So,
The other thing I was thinking was a couple things. One was about the printing and selling and stuff, is that the other thing that you can do if you're like me, where I don't sell prints, but I am often asked by various things I want to support, charities and stuff, to donate to time or whatever. You can donate prints for an auction. You could donate it to something, come here and get a print of this and donate to things. So there's lots of ways that we can use our work, right? And a physical print is, you're not giving them an NFT, right? You're giving them an actual print that somebody wants to actually have, and I think that's really valuable. But also I was thinking to myself that, like, again, we take so many pictures and you go through these phases, right? Where photography almost becomes like it's used word worthless, but almost worthless to something because you shoot so much of it. So by narrowing down and deciding what you want to print and really seeing it, you can actually elevate what the photography is, even if you're not like a professional. I mean, these printers, of course, we're looking at these amazing printers, but any kind of printer really, like HP has smaller printers as well, but
Yeah.
you should still buy these ones.
And actually, that segues into a question that popped up in the chat here, and I'll start kind of working backwards here. But there's a question for you, Daniel. It says, as someone who's taken thousands and thousands of photos in your life, how do you decide which ones to print? It's basically what you were just talking about.
So yeah, that's actually super interesting. So I think I'm going to go kind of sideways here, as I always do. The editing process is one of the processes that separates somebody that's really serious about any kind of craft or art from the amateur, if you will, right? We see all the time. We just did a critique at the store last month. We'll be giving a critique of an image and people will be like, oh, all that stuff you're suggesting, I have that image. But like you didn't produce it here because you didn't understand. So part of it is just knowing what strikes you, what is the good image. So that's number one. But then number two is I always think about where it's going to go and who I'm going to give it to. If it's a picture of a model, obviously I pick the one that I think is the best of them or something. But if I'm going to like hang it on my wall, I do consider where it is, right? It's like you want it to stick out and have like you want to put. I have a friend who when she was younger, did a lot of figure modeling, and when she got older, she got like a beautiful print. She put it right over her fireplace, like a portrait, like a big old thing with a frame around it, and it was beautiful. It looked like a painting, and it looked perfect in her decor. She like planned for it, and I think that's how I would do it. If you're making larger prints, you want to think about what you're going to do with it and where it's going to be, because that's going to be important if you actually want to hang it on the wall. Otherwise, I just take the ones that I feel like I want. I normally give them away because I don't hang up a lot of my own work. So I usually think of shots like you try to remember, right? You'll be talking to somebody and they'll be like, oh, I love that shot that you made. So then when the opportunity comes for me to print it, I keep it for them. And that's kind of how I generally think about it.
Excellent. So let's see. We do have some more questions here. So let's see. Some kind of mid-size there. Let's see. Some of these large format printers are going to be coming to mid-size. To answer about smaller than this. So for HP large format, our smallest size would be the 24-inch on the photo side. So you can run smaller paper, but we don't really play in the little 13, 17-inch printer. So that was a question there. Any difference between printers for black and white as compared to color? Can your color printer properly print black and white? So hopefully we already talked about that. Eddie showed the black and white print he did. We talked about the gloss enhancer. So yeah, so the printers, nobody really sells black and white only inkjet printers anymore. I mean, the only black and white printers you can really buy are like laser printers, which obviously aren't suitable for photo. So all of our large format printers can do exceptional full color, but then also the black and white. So we've got two different black inks in there. There's a photo black for printing on photo papers, and then there's a matte black for printing on more fine art kind of photo rag type stuff. And then if you're doing a lot of black and white, that gloss enhancer is definitely a good addition. So, and then right before that, Ralph asked, what's the best paper to use for black and white prints? So, Eddie, maybe you could chime in. Best paper. Personally, I like the satins. I don't. Maybe on some high, impact color stuff, I like a glossy paper. But on black and white, I really like sort of the satin, non-gloss.
It really depends on how you want to show it. So a glossy black and white, they look amazing. But the glossier, the higher the risk you're going to get like a Metamoris to them. So it depends on how you want to tell the story on your images. So a lot of people like doing a night scene with a rainy night scene, or they want to look their models really shiny. They do go with a gloss. Now, if they're going to display them with the overhead lights and they don't have direct lighting on them, or they're going to be outside or by a window where light is going to come in sideways, a lot of people like going to the satin, like Frank's saying. He really likes the satin because it's very universal. I could put the image up on the wall, and no matter how the light hits, it's always going to look great, and it avoids the metamorism. And And so, and that's why you see a lot of, like, you go to the, like, I'm gonna date myself, you go back into 24-hour photo and you get your photos, you have it in hand, they're all onto like a matte finish and a satin finish because it dithers the light. But it also gives it a really rich look and feel. Now there's other photographers like doing mostly landscapes. They want it to look like real, like you're looking at it with your eyeballs. They're gonna go with a matte or actually even a watercolor, like a cotton rag in black and white or a litho, because it has such a realistic look to it, and you can get super fine details in there. And so the finishing on that, it is like a cotton rag finish, but the lithography just looks amazing. You get these great details, and you have nothing shining back at you. So you're focusing all your visual energy into the scene, but nothing coming out. Because when you're looking at a big panorama, you don't want anything shining back at you. You're bringing everything in. And so it just depends on the art that you're doing. But that's the great thing about these kind of machines is you can get a little sample of everything and you can see exactly what you're going for. As a matter of fact, I do a lot of virtual demos, and I even tell people BMG is going to kill me on this one, but it's so worth it, is open up your favorite web browser, type in HP free Swatchbook, and you can order one of these for yourself. And this actually is a 40-page Swatchbook of all the different medias you can print on with these machines. It doesn't cost a dime. It takes about 4 weeks to get in, but check this out. I do have it on the very last page. There's a lithography, matte litho image, but see, look how realistic that looks. You know, and my camera can't pick up everything, but no matter how I angle it, there's no light shining or reflecting on it. So your eyeballs are in that moment right there.
That's a nice paper. I think I have a roll of that, but I kind of save it for special stuff because it's such a cool paper.
It's pretty
hold on. I'm not special?
Oh, well,
absolutely.
Wow.
But I had this already loaded in there. So, but I think I had that paper at that show in Louisville. I think I did use that at the show because I think I shipped that from Louisville back to my own stock. But, so, I mean, really, it's personal preference too, you know, obviously.
Absolutely. And here's a canvas. So if you want to put your art on canvas, you know, so we got photo papers, canvas, banner, backlit. I mean, these are all different medias, and these are all printed on a DesignJet in one form or another. So you can see the output. You can see exactly what you can do and which direction you want to take your art, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, the paper's not that expensive. I mean, like this paper I have here is $100-something a roll. I mean, the most expensive papers are probably $200-300. I mean, but we're talking really, really high-end paper.
Yeah.
Speaking of money, just go through the questions here. Janie asks, what's the best printer for pictures without breaking the bank? So I guess it depends on how big the bank is. But like I said, the one I have here, high-end photo, like we said, for little over $2,700. I mean, we have less expensive large format printers, but those are more poster printer, generic kind of stuff. So, you know, to get into high-end photo printing for $2,700 or so, I would say the Z9 24-inch.
Well, you got to think of the big picture too. So with this machine, it is a little chunk of money to get started with. However, you're printing your photos, so you want a high quality machine. But this 9-color machine actually produces 14 colors with that dual drop technology that we're talking about. This machine also has 130 or 300 milliliter ink cartridges. So in the long run, you're going to spend less than having a desktop printer where you're constantly buying small cartridges.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, I got some extra cartridges in the closet here, but I mean, these are huge cartridges. When you talk about a desktop printer, yeah, there you go. That's my office printer way back there. Those cartridges are tiny. I don't even know what they hold, like 20 milliliters maybe or something. These hold 300. So if you did the math, I buy cartridges for that. They're like $50 for like a tiny little cartridge, whereas these big cartridges are like $150. So if you do the math, you get a lot more value on the larger cartridges at a lower cost per print.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, and if you're pinched for space, you can take the printer like Frank has behind him, and you can take the legs off and you can set it on a table. There's actually
That's
a little
true.
bitty tiny feet right here. So I've seen a lot of setups where they have it sitting on a table with a cabinet down below with their supplies in. So
Yeah.
you don't really need to have the stand.
That's true. Let's see. I'm just scrolling through questions here. Joseph asked, this is a good question that I can answer. How do you keep the high resolution printheads from drying out? Well, my printer here, I actually hadn't used it in a while. I probably maybe over a month, and I just turned it on or not turned it on, but woke it up this morning to get ready for this. So basically, I just leave the printer on, plugged in, but allow it to go into sleep mode. So it'll just wake up and do a real quick little shuffling and you know, the inks to make sure that the printheads and the lines don't dry out. Sometimes it does it at 3 in the morning or so when my smoke detector's not beeping. But so I hear it make a little thing, but it doesn't last very long and it doesn't use a lot of ink. So that's to keep the printheads from drying out. That's your best bet. Just leave it, let it go into sleep mode, and it'll do its thing once or twice a day. And you could not print on it for a year and you'd be fine.
Absolutely. The service station inside is the magic. Like Frank saying, you just let it stay on. It wakes up, does its thing. I have its twin sister in another building. I haven't been to it in 6 months. I go over there and I sent a job because I had to take it to a trade show, and it printed like the day I left it. And in that 6-month period, I burnt 45 milliliters of ink, which is just a fraction of ink compared to the price of a printhead.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. I mean, let's say you forget to leave it on, or you're in somewhere where you can't have it plugged in. Like the printer that Daniel that I had at that show in Louisville, that was stored in a warehouse in Brooklyn for I think almost probably before the pandemic, and hadn't been used. So what I did was I just made sure we shipped a couple extra print heads. And the print heads are like $150. So when I got to Louisville, I turned that thing on. It hadn't been used in forever, and I had not even all the print heads had dried out. I think I replaced 2 of them. So that's the key to having the end user replaceable print heads. Whereas some manufacturers, the print heads like an embedded part of the printer, where if it dries out or goes bad, you got to call up and have somebody come out from service tech and actually replace the print head. So it's not the end of the world if it dries out, but it's easy enough to keep it from happening. But like I said, that printer was in a warehouse somewhere with no power and nobody to play with it. So that's why that happened. So let's see. Linda asked, my prints always come out darker than I want, and I almost have to give it an overexposed look to get the correct printed exposure. How can I fix this? My monitor's calibrated. So, you know, part of it is to make sure that the printer's calibrated to the type of paper you're using. I don't know what printer you're using, but like I said, this has the built-in Spectr Photometer, so you can create your own custom profiles to the paper you're using. So, Eddie, I don't know if you have anything to...
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So pigment inks in general come out just a little darker by nature. However, like Frank was talking about, it's a matter of getting the machine calibrated so it knows how much ink to lay down. You know, so it looks at the white point of the paper you're printing on. So always do the color calibration. But then I also recommend to build your own ICC profile, because this machine and other machines out there will have a default setting or a standard ICC profile that everybody packages in when they ship them out, which is great. It works for probably 80% of people's needs. But if you notice it's coming out a little darker, or the colors are just not how you need it, or they're not matching your screen, and you know your screen is dialed in, well, then we always recommend is to build an ICC profile. For instance, with this machine, you can go into the utility that we have called HP Printer Utility, and you build a profile to that paper, to the printer, and then the ICC profile will sit and take over the factory one in there. Now, what's really cool is once that profile is built, you can log onto the printer and you can upload that profile, and then you can stick it into the software that you're using on your monitor. So that your monitor says, oh, this is how the machine's output's going to look. So, you know, I'm going to, here's the adjustments if you want the machine to match what you see on the screen. You can take that ICC profile, export out of the machine and put it into Adobe. And Adobe's going to know exactly what the output's going to need. So it's not going to have to guess or use an estimated chart to figure out how the color might look. If you happen to have a couple of these machines and one of them is really dialed in and you like its output, you can take that profile out of that machine, upload it, and download it into the other machine so they all print and look the same. So that's the great thing about the Spectr Photometer is you can get this color dialed in. So if it's a little brighter, a little darker, you can at least build the profile and match everything across. You can use as little or as much color manipulation as you want on this machine. You can go into God mode, or you can go on just, you know, Sunday driver mode.
Very cool.
Very
All
skilled.
right. James asks, how does a freeform crop affect the borders on a print? How do you determine the border size when printing? So I'm not really sure what a freeform crop effect is. So
I'm going to assume that means like not a standard, like 16 by 20 or something. So we'll just go with that. Well, I mean, you know, obviously the trick to this, assuming that they're going to not just print it and hold it somewhere, if you're going to mount it somehow, you typically want to leave some white space around it. I would usually, a little bit more on top than the bottom. I mean, we were always taught in school was about an inch or so, but it kind of depends on the print, right? I probably, if you did something really narrow and tall, I might leave an inch or so on the top and bottom and then go tighter on the sides. You're going to have to, you know, it's a composition thing. And if you're putting it in a frame or something, I probably would put a mat around it so that you can get to a standard size. That's, you know, that's the way it is, right? We're shooting, if you're back in the day, even now, because if you're shooting full frame, you're shooting 35 millimeter, that's not 8 by 10, right? So if you're not going to crop something, you always have to deal with these borders. And the simplest way to do it is to put a mat. So like a mat inside the frame.
Oh yeah.
That would be my recommendation. But if you're going to just go straight up paper, then, leave some white border around it, but I wouldn't leave too much. You know, an inch. This is probably how I would handle that.
That makes sense. All right, this one's a little. What type of glass do you recommend you use in a photo frame? I think we were talking about this before we got online here. To me, I'm not an expert. I just said clear, but obviously there's different types.
Not the right answer. No, that's having dealt with this a little bit, and maybe I'd have some comments too. Is that so? I've done a couple things in gallery shows. I've had it in frames. And typically there is special glass that's way more expensive. And when you go to one of these framing shops, you're going to like faint at how expensive the glass is. It's photo glass. Like it's made to be non-glare. So you can look through it. So I would recommend that. So any frame you bought in like a big box store is probably going to be garbage, really, because it's just a piece of glass. The other way you could do it is if you could also just not put glass and just make sure that you're dry mounting or somehow connecting. Maybe that's why I don't know what they would do today to something that is acid free, like a board. Right. And I've done that. We did a whole show in Florida where we made big prints 24 by 36. Well, they were big at the time. And we dry mounted them to acid-free foam board and then literally Velcroed the foam board to the walls. So everything was just floating in the air. So but that depends on how you want to show it. You know, if you're going to show it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I print stuff to hang on my walls at home. I buy the cheapest frames I can buy at like Hobby Lobby or something, but I'm a professional, you know. So, and I have my own kind of weird way of mounting canvas stuff, which I'm gonna get yelled at. But I buy a cheap frame with a plexiglass front on it, and then I take spray adhesive and I spray the plexiglass and I spray the canvas. I put them two together, stick it on the frame, put it on the wall, and nobody can tell the difference. So, it's all right, but it's just for my house. So
right.
Brandon's got a question. I think we probably would have to teach a class on. I would like to know what the best settings for printing are. So that's kind of a little vague. So I don't know, Brandon, if you're on or not still, and you want to, sort of narrow that down a little bit because, we'd have to know what kind of printer you have, what software you're using, and that kind of thing. So because there are a lot of different settings you can play around.
Yeah, I mean, the best settings is, well, turn the printer into best mode. You've got fast, normal, best naturally, but a lot of it is going to be that ICC profile. If you're looking for output, and you want to dial it in, some artists or photographers will actually manipulate the printer to print a little lighter, a little darker to change their output. But when you own your own machine, you can like set it how you want and forget it. But naturally, yeah, you're going to pick best mode in there. But to get your art out, you're going to have to buy a roll of paper, kind of experiment and play with it and figure out what you want. I mean, a chef's not going to walk in with his pan and eggs and be able to, make the perfect eggs Benedict right away. He's going to have to play with his tools and figure out what he's trying to message across. Because printing and photography, they're two different arts. You put them together, then you're building a masterpiece. But you're playing with your own recipe on how you want to do it.
So there's a note from Seth Miranda. I guess he's on the call. So
No.
Seth said that printer I was talking about that we had in Louisville was stored for 4 years. And it's still, most of the printheads were still good after 4 years. So I think I had 2 I had to replace and fiddle around with. So, and then speaking of printheads, Luminel, I'm not going to try and pronounce this, Luminel Cal. Asks what kind of printhead technology does HP use? So heated, technically it's thermal, so kind of heated. So there's 2 different types of inkjet printhead technology. There's thermal and there's piezo. So us and one other large format manufacturer use thermal. A third manufacturer uses piezo. So thermal, basically in the printhead at the end of the nozzle, there's a little heating element. It heats the ink up. The ink creates a bubble, and that's how it's projected onto the paper. With piezo, it's like a little electronic, not plunger, if you will, that shoots.
Like a crystal.
Yeah. And then question from the same person. So you have to create your own media settings and ICC profiles. No, that's optional. I don't, because I'm not doing anything professionally here. I'm just printing for things like this and demos and a print to hang in my house or give to a neighbor or something. So if I'm running HP Instant Dry Universal Satin, I just tell the printer HP Universal Instant Dry Instant Satin, and my prints come out great. To take it to the next level, that's when you want to do what Eddie said and do your own ICC profiles. If I was a photographer, which I'm not, and creating gallery prints or selling prints, I would go through the process because it's not a long process. It's just not necessary for what I do. So you have that option.
It's the perfect thing is you got Frank and then you got me. So you got Frank cracks open the box, he loads it in, he shops at Michael's to get his frames, and he builds everything easy peasy lemon squeezy. And then I'm on this side, I'm the solutions architect, so I've built my ICC profiles. I'm getting in the images, the machine's dialed in. I'm on the other end of the spectrum, so you can see it's scalable to however you want to do your work.
Well, you know what's interesting about that too, from the point of view of like just outside the printer, world, like you guys are, is that I have found that consistency in anything you do as an artist is important. And I think that's where building your own profiles or using ones that are preset based on like HP's papers makes sense, right? What I found was whenever I told somebody to just do what they thought was best, I got 5 different looking prints, right? Whereas when I went in there and dialed it in myself, I got, at least it was consistent. And then if it's too dark or too light or whatever, I know that I did that. So I think if you want a lot of control and you're at that stage, which is basically what you're saying, you're going to want to do that, but it's not hard. I'm not a very high tech person and I can set up ICC profifiles.
I could do it. I just don't need to. I don't even have Photoshop. So they don't give it to me. So I don't get a license for it like Eddie does. I'm lucky to have Acrobat. So another question.
He's automated it. He's automated it, and so we're going to push the buttons. We're not measuring it one at a time. You push a button, and this machine does it all for you.
Do you have your swatch print handy or no? Because another question from Lumenia Cal said, how many color patches does the built-in Spectr Photometer generate when creating profiles? So Eddie can either tell you or he has one printed, but
So if you're doing the standard run, the I1 spectral color patch out of the machine, it's a 512 color patch. We go with that number because it smooths the curves way better with the 9-ink system. Well, actually, 14-ink system, the way it works when we put it to matte. Now, the cool thing, though, is if you're running it through a RIP, if you're running through Caldera or EFI, you can use their 2000 and their 4000 color patch. Then that chunk of software will actually override and log into the Spectr and print the patterns and read the patterns. So you can go, on like insane level on this. But this one here by default factory, so you don't have to pay for any software for free. It's the 512 color patch. And that is going to get you 97% there where you probably want to be. So if you want to get that extra, if you want to get to 100%, then you slap down $2,200, you get the software to do that. So it just depends on where you want to go. But
exactly. So you can do basic like me, you can do, advanced like you, or you can take it even farther, so. Well, that was our last question, and we're at the top of the hour. We're a couple minutes over here, so just last call for any questions here. I think this was an event that probably should check, but we're a couple minutes.
I know they told
early.
me, so my coffee's getting run out. So
yeah, so
oh, Daniel, this is why I didn't put this on canvas or the matte litho. I mean, look at the shiny on this. And I noticed there's a lot of gloss in the legs, and you would lose that in like a watercolor photo. And this is not for landscape imagery. So this satin paper, and you can see the little shinies that shine the light. Makes this one looks freaking amazing. I think this is my favorite print of the day, just because of the black and white, no metamorism, and just how much detail and smooth transition. I mean, usually you lose a lot in here. You can see the steps, the Miori pattern on a lower color, lower resolution printer with 9 colors, which actually it's 5 different kinds of blacks: matte black, photo black, gray, light black, and light gray. So we're doing just killer colors and transitions with this.
that looks fantastic.
Yeah.
So this event was recorded. So if anybody came in late, must have watched the beginning, or you have any friends that couldn't join us, so there'll be a link available to, or if you love this so much and want to spend the weekend watching it again, feel free. So I guess I don't see any more questions. So I guess we'll kind of start wrapping up here. We're a little bit over the hour, but. Eddie and Daniel, always a pleasure. We always have a good time doing these, and Seth, we won't leave you out, so maybe next time we'll do one with you. But yeah, good times. I always have fun doing these. I always look forward to them, and yeah, hopefully Daniel will do that show in Texas this year, and I'll see you there. And then Eddie, I'll find an excuse to bring you somewhere. We'll go to New York and do something in Adorama at the store there. So
that sounds amazing. You just let me know, and I'll pack my bags.
All right. Yeah, Eddie and I did an event, Imagine event, probably going back 5 years now with Adorama at some place around the corner from there. But we have our favorite Korean barbecue place over not too far from there. So. Let's meet. All you can eat Korean barbecue. So
nice.
I mean, it's kind of I remember. It's been a while. Not that I would remember something weird like that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's called that.
But oh wait, one last question. How many ink channels are in the HP printer? So this one, like I said, it's 9 color. So we have a version of this, which called the Z6, which is 6 color, which is more of a sort of a generic poster printer. But those are the representative colors.
Yeah. So it's 9 colors, but I was telling you the output actually is 14, and that's the dual drop. So here is out of the dual drop or the dual color channel, We have yellow. We don't do nothing with yellow, but we take and we shoot out of one nozzle, the 7 picoliter. It shoots out at 35 miles an hour, hits the paper and splats, and magenta comes out. Half-size nozzle, 3 picoliter. We shoot the same ink. It comes out at the same velocity. It hits the dot gain or the splat on paper is exactly the same, half the volume. So light magenta comes out. Because of that, we're building light magenta, but you don't have to pay for a 300 milliliter ink cartridge of light magenta. We're doing it at the machine. You don't have to pay for a light cyan or a light black or a light blue. So the magic is in the print heads, and this is how we are matching and beating color gamuts with our 12 ink brethren out there. This is just a simple print head test pattern like the print, but this shows you mechanically what the machine is capable of doing and how come its detail and this imagery is so great and the color map is big with only 9 inks. Okay, I'm done.
A couple more questions came in. So metallic papers, Eddie, we can't run metallic paper on a DesignJet, can you? That's more of a latex type of thing, right?
More of a latex, like a vinyl metallic color. You can, as long as it's coated for pigment ink.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I've seen on latex, we have a different, more of an industrial product line called latex, which is for printing vehicle wraps and billboards, but we do a lot of decor on there, like wallpaper. So I've seen those like really speckly wallpapers printed on there, but I don't think we can do anything like that on DesignJet. And then the chroma optimizer for glossy papers, that would be that gloss enhancer upgrade. So that would be, and I can't remember the price off the top of my head, but it's very reasonably priced. The gloss enhancer upgrade, $240. So if you buy the Z9, you get the kit. It's got the printhead, it's got the cartridge, it's got a little USB dongle to upgrade the software. So that's all you would need to do that, to use that gloss enhancer. All right. I think looks like that's it. Got a message. So, like I said, it's fun, always a pleasure, and always good to see you too. So, let's do it again real soon. And it is Friday, so you guys have a good weekend. Daniel, you and I are a couple hours ahead of Eddie, so we can start earlier. So.
Exactly.
All right, and everybody go to Adorama.com. Search for DesignJet Z9 Plus. You'll see all the models on there, all the current promotions and everything too. So everybody on the call, have a wonderful weekend, and thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you all soon.
Bye, guys. Thanks.
Bye.